US, you don't have, you know, the Social Security, or you don't have the free or the cheap education, and you have to really try to make it on your own.
Why do you sacrifice that? Why do you feel that?
I think it's because of the way that the structure of the US is set up.
Own with freelancing in France, it's fake it until you make it.
Delegation is success.
We only start to delegate for the majority of people when we are just overwhelmed.
I feel so lucky, man. I'm just drinking good wine, eating good food.
Guys, just go to the US or go abroad and finally we see that Paris is not so bad.
Why not live the life that you want to live now?
Hello à tous. Today is a very special episode of Insubmersible because it will be fully in English. I will try my best to make myself understood with Chris. We are welcoming Christopher Eshnaur.
That's right.
Which is, I think, one of my best meets in the WeWork community so far. We'll talk a little bit about it. Today, so we are going to discuss, of course, entrepreneurial stuff, but the main focus will be to compare the French mentality with the US mentality, because Chris is from the US, so I think it was really nice to have Chris on this podcast and that he explained us how we do business, in fact, in the US, but also why he came in France to develop his company. Chris, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Ready for this episode?
I'm excited, man.
Amazing.
We're talking about, real quick, just the difference between French and America, and I think the coffee size immediately.
I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but you have the super size of the US with the Americano and the French style with...
Whenever you come back from your trip, I think you're gonna get the big one.
Exactly. So for those who don't know, I will be in the US for 3 months. So Chris will give us a snapshot of what's going to be my trip in the US. So Chris, you are the founder of Draft Creative Agency.
Yep.
Can you introduce yourself, what you do, and what's it's like to be the founder of Draft Creative?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Christopher Eshnaur. So I have Draft Creative. It's a digital strategy and marketing agency. We do email marketing, social, top to bottom, basically full service marketing. With the idea that our team can replace your in-house team, which is a bit of a controversial concept that I think is going to continue to change over time.
Outsource everything.
Exactly, yeah. And then it's funny how even within my own company, that was like the impetus of me seeing, okay, it's easier to partner with teams of people that are really well-oiled and they're specific in their lane at what they do.
Yeah.
And it increases efficiencies. And so I saw the opportunity to be able to do that with customers. And there is some hesitancy because people want to maintain the control, but basically our offering is that we can replace a full team for the cost of one person on your team.
How much are you
so we have
team?
10 people who are core team, and then we have an additional 4 or 5 people who are more freelance.
Yeah, contractors, etc.
Yeah.
I think your team is fully remote, right?
Yes, yep.
My first question for you is, how do you manage a fully remote team, especially in France, with the fact that you are not on the same hours?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a personality thing, because I'm like more of a night owl. You know, I enjoy in the morning relaxing, taking time. So the time difference where my team is in LA doesn't really bother me that much. But the main thing is just setting up clear guidelines of, okay, this time everyone has to be online. Okay. You can work before and after, but these are the main areas where our clients are going to be online. So you also have to be available to collaborate, which I think is the big thing. And then the second thing is just leveraging tools like Slack, Notion, organization of Dropbox and responsibilities.
That's a great aspect. What do you use, guys? Do you have something different than what we do in France, with communication, or only Slack?
Yeah, Slack is the main one. I mean, Slack is our HQ, and the way that we set up Slack maybe is a bit unique. So when I started this company, it was fully remote from the beginning. So we were just shooting from the hip. You know, that's like the American style, like figuring it out as you go. And that's also my personality, just trying to figure out things. And I'm a bit, admittedly, overconfident in that, where I'm like, I'll figure it out.
I will figure it out.
Even if I mess up, it's just, I think that mentality is important for entrepreneurship. You have to believe in yourself to figure it out. So it took a lot of time and trial and effort to understand how information is communicated in Slack and online and writing.
Okay.
So we delineate communication very specifically. So we have like our core team members are in one chat.
Okay.
For one project, and then say like the designers or the coders or the copywriters are in a different channel.
Okay.
And then we communicate all the important information in our decision maker channel, and then only communicate information to those people who are actually doing the tasks.
Okay.
And I think the big thing is that there's so much content when you're just writing, and people are very bad about typing short, succinct, important information. Is just casual. They think of it like texting.
Okay.
So that, I mean, that starts with us, you know, it's like, how do we manage communication and show in the way that we respond, how people need to type. And then obviously we do huddles and communication, but
it's funny that the way you present it, we will figure it out. The first thing that I see between, again, the US and what we do in France, that in France we'll be like, okay, let's have a project, we'll do things like that, we'll start to build the thing, you know, even if someone has already started to use Slack. And I know it's the worst manner to do it, you know. And so we use Slack in Lead Studio, my company, and it was like that. At the beginning, I tried to organize my Slack. Okay, so let's think about what will be the main channel, how I need to communicate with my team. And I think right now we have 2 channels that all the people use, and all the rest is just crazy stuff, useless, etc. And I just waste a lot of time building a Slack that is not used at all, except for the 2 channels. So again, first lesson for those who listen to us: build your communication channel as you go.
Yes,
it's better.
And even smaller is, even if you're communicating, you can make unlimited channels.
Yeah.
So keeping information segmented that's easy to find is really important if you're fully remote. Yeah. So we have hundreds of channels. I mean, it's.
So to jump into the main areas, why did you come in France to run your companies?
I guess it's more of a personal question. So I set up my company from the beginning to be fully remote. And I think you and I talked about this a little bit, but I initially was doing freelancing and taking on clients and didn't want to work in an office. I mean, this is 2017. So
in fact, it's funny because we started at the same time.
Oh, nice.
I was doing freelancing. I think you told me that you were already in college. Were in college at that time. Yep. So I know what it is because it was the same for me, just starting some stuff in college. So
yeah, and then I mean that's how it starts. I think for a lot of service-based ideas is that you develop the skill and then you try to take on clients, and then again going back to that personality thing of I would just never say no to a project.
Okay.
And even if it was something that I had to figure out, it was my challenge to say don't say no, because this could turn into a referral. This could turn into another client. And overwhelmed myself, took on too many clients. But, you know, I was working like 80 hours a week, just doing it all myself.
How did you find your first clients?
So in LA, there are different agencies that can kind of connect you with companies as a freelancer. I'm sure there's some here as well.
Yeah, in France, the main platform is Malt.
Okay, yes.
Which is a freelance platform in which you can find easily some clients. And the second one is Your Network and LinkedIn, of course.
Yep. And then also like Upwork. Is Upwork popular here?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's a big one in the US, but when I started, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was just, there were kind of agencies. Okay. So you would send them your portfolio and then they would say, this company is looking for a freelancer for 1 month. And then I would go make the connection with the person, you know, show them that I was reliable and all this, and then keep them in my contact book.
At the time, what were you doing? Only creating website, managing marketing campaign?
Yeah, design, marketing, basically sort of in that
like everyone at the beginning.
Exactly.
You just do everything.
Yeah.
And how did you learn to do that?
So that's what I went to university for.
Okay.
Yeah, so I studied graphic and web design in university and marketing. And the idea of doing that in school, even from university, I was like, this is something that will allow me to work remotely. I mean, my drive has always been around experiencing life, and I kind of figured out something I could do that fit into the lifestyle I wanted to create.
You already have this why, in fact, when you were in college. Because in France, something is very different, is that we don't really express what we want to do in life. And, there's that kind of highway. You will go to the university, then going to consultancy. And the why is not very prominent in France. So you back in time, you already knew that, okay, I want to work remote. I want to have full control of my life and my time. Really nice. And what's funny is that you said that you learn stuff at school.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I always got in trouble because I would always push back against the professors because I felt like it wasn't challenging enough.
Okay.
And so I would go way over, like, for an example, we had one project that was like make, a tea company, like for tea. And I like carved this wooden box and made this crazy contraption thing to show in the class. So that was always been like my overachieving personality, was just like to show that
do it 100%.
Exactly. It's like this project isn't serious. Like, you should ask much more from us to push us. Okay. That's kind of my approach.
Okay, so yeah, because in France, basically the college stuff are pointless, really shit. Yeah. The only reason why you go into a business school, marketing school, is to create a network that will allow you then in the future, to have great connections and to find easy job, or if you build a company, to have just clients. But basically it's more when you are starting on your own with freelancing in France, it's fake it until you make it,
Exactly.
Get clients, try to learn the stuff while doing it. Yeah. Was it the case for you, or you already had hard skills?
I think it was a combination of both. Okay. Yeah. So I think, it's interesting because I was trying, what I wanted to find were commonalities between France and the US, because I think something that came to me earlier was that our cultures are very different, but there are a lot of things that connect sort of the same mentality. And I don't know what the differences are about why the US is the way it is versus why France is the way it is, but I think there could be just a few small changes and it would make a big difference in people's mentality. Because if you have the fake it till you make it mentality, that's most of what the US is fake it till you make it.
Yeah, but it's not the case in France. In France, I think the Slack example that we had at the introduction is exactly that. Is that on your side, let's do stuff, we'll build it as we go. In France, is okay, let's the stuff be perfect, even let's make the stuff perfect before selling it or trying to present it to the world, Yeah. And we know it's always failed this way. On my side, I know it's failing 100% of the time. But in France, it's like, okay, let's build it perfect. And it also, that's the right to fail. In France, it's terrible. We have no right to fail. If we fail, we are just losers, and everything compound, but negatively. On your side in the US, I think failing is great, in fact, when you fail.
The good example of that, in the US, someone can be convicted of a crime and go to jail, and then get out of jail and then make billions of dollars. Like the Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Jordan Belfort.
He screwed so many people over. Yeah. And then he went to jail and then came out, and now he's a hero. He's on normal news. He's on CNBC, and people ask him his opinion. And that's the America. You can reinvent yourself very easily. So,
but do you think it's good?
I think it's real, because people go through changes in life, and there's certain things in the US where we're very strict, like with prison, for example. Yeah. A small crime, someone can get screwed for life. But with business or money, it's very forgiving. And I think that that's good, because unless you're trying to screw somebody over intentionally, which sometimes people do, the market kind of dictates if people will want to work with you again. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't give that guy my money anymore, or, buy anything he sells, but some people would. And
Yeah, that's. I think that's very different because in France, when you go in jail, in fact, there is no way that you are going to recover from that. It's over. But even for the simple thing in life, just getting a flat or getting a loan with the bank, it's over. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's right on that when you're committing crime.
Yeah.
But the majority part is that I think it's okay to fail and to just move forward, you know.
Yeah.
Well, so let's come back to your journey. So you were freelancing. When did you started to hire a team, in fact?
So I basically overwhelmed myself, got too busy.
Okay.
And then I had the idea of, okay, wait, I have sort of a cap on how much I can make with my time.
Yeah.
And I think that this is if somebody asked me how they should start out, I would encourage them to do this. I mean, it's my experience, but it doesn't require any money up front.
Yeah.
It doesn't require anything other than your own skills and time. And so there's no excuses. It's just you sell your time for something. And then afterwards you learn how to optimize. So that's kind of what I did is, okay, I can charge more. And now I can charge per project instead of per hour and make even more.
Yeah.
And then the idea of, okay, well, I can hire somebody. And it sort of all happened fluidly. And in the US, I mean, it would just start as freelancing. So, hey, per project, I've got a project. Do you want to help me out on this? I'll pay you this amount. And then I charge the client X amount. And I tried that for a while, tried to get some people, but it's just so hard to start at the beginning because you're working against so many things. You have no idea how to manage people. You don't know how to manage remotely.
It's what I was going to ask you is that, so it was the same for me. You start as a freelancer and you're alone, so you manage your own time, your own clients, you manage yourself. But I think something switch the very time that you start to manage others, in fact. Because you not only have to manage your clients and yourself, but also your freelancers or your team. And I think it's at this very moment that you really start, what entrepreneurial is like.
Yes.
So how did you compute with that, switching for solo business to teamwork?
I started the transition and hired, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 freelancers that I was working with. And then it got overwhelming. And I was just like, I don't think I want to do this.
Okay.
It's challenging in a different way, but you start to see like your margin, you're not making as much money as you did by yourself. At the beginning is very tricky because people's time, managing other people's time, like you mentioned, is very different than managing your own time. And you also perceive it differently. It's like, okay, if I have to work longer on this, it's okay because I'm still making all the money.
Yeah.
But when somebody else is doing something, you try to be very strict with how much time they spend because you have a budget. So I basically just decided to then go back to freelancing after. So I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. And now I'm going to do it on my own. And then what happened was I started to build more relationships with clients.
Yeah.
And I had a different perspective. This was maybe a year later. And I had one big client who basically said, hey, we like what you do. How about we just keep giving you a bunch more work. Can you figure it out?
Okay.
So I was like, okay. And then I hired somebody else, a little bit different perspective and a different approach this time, more strict with certain things. And then hired a freelance bookkeeper, which was very important.
Okay.
Because you're just juggling so many things. You're juggling the finances. You're juggling how to keep track of your time and taxes. And
I think the dirty job of bookkeeping and administrative stuff.
That is,
it's the first thing you need to delegate, in fact, when you are on your own.
Exactly. And that's what you learn is delegation. And you see that with any business is delegation is success. But you have to know how to delegate, which is not something you have to learn it through experience, in my opinion. I mean,
exactly. I think everyone knows that he needs to delegate, but in fact, I think it's the way the human brain is working is that we only start to delegate for the majority of people when we are just overwhelmed.
Exactly.
On my side, it's the same. Is that with personal assistants and bookkeeping, it's just when it's just getting so crazy that you say, okay, in fact, I need to change and to delegate. And after you did that, you realize that, fuck, why I haven't did it before. It's so amazing to have someone that take care of all of this administrative stuff.
Yes.
And in the US, do you have some platform that help that kind of stuff?
So at the beginning, like I said, Upwork wasn't that popular. So I just had to do Indeed. It's like a job posting website.
Yeah, we have it in France also.
And this is a little, I guess it's like a little side hack that I figured out.
Yeah.
Is at the beginning, I just kept my job posting up all year because I was always looking for more freelancers.
Okay.
So freelance design, freelance web developer. And as a result, there's so many people and more people started to look for those types of jobs that my website started to get a bunch of traction. So
amazing.
Because people were like, wait a second, boom, boom, boom. And then I would get like 600 hits on my website in a day.
Amazing.
For people looking for jobs, but then it natively helped, organic search. So I was just like,
you think it helped regarding SEO and things like that?
I think so, yeah. I mean, Google, I think in general, prioritizes traffic.
Yeah,
so
we don't know, but I think it is.
Yeah. But that was like a fun little discovery. And yeah, so then hiring an administrator, I think if somebody's just starting out freelancing, you realize that if you see somebody like on Upwork or Malt, for example, I don't know how much a bookkeeper is, 25, 30 euro an hour.
But the thing is that it's very expensive on Malt. You can't say, okay, I will delegate my bookkeeping if you are solopreneur or to someone to Malt. It will cost you like a crazy amount of time.
Oh, really? Okay.
So the problem is that in France, we had to find other ways. There was a website that now is named Come Up, but it was 5euros.com.
Like a Fiverr kind
of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you were able to hire some, offshore services from Madagascar or things like that to do administrative stuff. It's something I used a lot to build my company on that. But there is no, one platform that okay, I will go there to outsource all the administrative stuff in France.
I would suggest looking at Upwork. If that's not popular,
but they are not French native,
Yeah, that's true. I think if it's French tax, that's probably where it gets
tricky.
Impossible. Yeah,
but
if somebody wants to join Upwork as a freelancer, I bet there's an opportunity to be a bookkeeper and then reach out to small companies and say, I'll do your bookkeeping. And
I think maybe, but in France it's not very developed. Upwork, it's more Malt or Come Up or things like that. Anyway, so today, so you are 10.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious to know, so it was my first question, is that why did you come in France? Tell us more about that. Because generally it's the contrary, we are in France and we just want to live in the US.
I think
the contrary.
Yeah, I feel very lucky because, like I said, I started my company at the beginning as a lifestyle company for me. I mean, I never want to be the CEO of a big company.
Okay.
I never do. And I never want to, after
nice.
After you taste the freedom of, like right now I feel so lucky because no one has control over me.
Yeah.
Like I'm no one's bitch, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody, like I have no funding in my company. It's 100% mine. Yeah. So if I say no, we don't do it. If I say yes, we do it, which has limitations. Like I can only grow to a certain level.
Yeah.
But for me, what I've realized is that the CEO of a big company or the founder of a big company, my perspective is that you are working for your VCs, you're working for your shareholders, you're working for the people who have money invested in your company, and you can get a big payout.
Yeah.
But they sort of control your life. And the money component of that, to me, was never worth it. Even if it's $1 billion, sure, you get a payout, then you can go live the life that you want to live, but that's the same idea. Why not live the life that you want to live now while you're building something that you also care about? And some businesses require a lot of money, I understand that. But the lifestyle component was
very important. It's very interesting what you are telling us, is because I did a podcast with my brother 10 days ago, and he has his own company, but it was a VC fund. And so he sold the company last year, and his main lesson was that, okay, when you want to start the business game and the entrepreneurial game, you have to be crystal clear about which game are you going to play. Are you going to play the VC game in which, okay, you will need to grow as much as possible, as quickly as possible. It will create a lot of stress. You will have to meet short deadline. You have no time. You are, in fact, working and building capital for your VCs and your investors. But at the end, the payout can be $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So you have to know that. And on the other hand, you can be a bootstrap company. It's very fine if you want to have full control of your time, decide when or when not to put pressure on your business, thing like that.
Yeah.
I think there is no better way, in fact, but it's very important to be clear, I think. And you are a great example, I think. You knew from the beginning that you wanted to be freelancers, to be on your own, to have control of your time. And I think it's the only way to do it by your own and not trying to raise some capital or something like that.
Yeah, it's tricky because now, I mean, it's very like in style, I guess.
Yeah.
To raise a bunch of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, if people want to do that and they have the drive to do that,
yeah,
awesome. But I think often money and power, I mean, those are primary drivers of anyone who wants to be in business. That's just what it is. Sure, they want to help or grow, build something amazing, but money and power are a big component of it. And so if you understand your own desire about those two things,
yeah,
then I think it helps clear a lot, because I will never regret any moment of my journey and never feel like it wasn't worth it. And I think that that's an important distinction, because there's a lot of cases where somebody tries to raise a lot of money and then they get screwed, and they can start another thing. But I think it, like you said, being clear about what you want to do at the beginning and understanding why you're doing it is very important.
Do you have some tips to share about how you were able to be crystal clear about that? Because I think defining our why is very hard. I had a lot of guests in the past who were talking about this why. And the main conclusion is that, especially in France, it's very hard to know why you want to do some stuff, and are you really wanting it because it's you that decide you want it, or is it the society or the environment in which you live in that impose you to do this? How did you manage and figure it out?
One of the biggest things for me was I told you a little bit, but I had a crazy car accident when I was in university.
Yeah.
So whenever you're faced with death that clearly, every decision you make after that is filtered through that perspective. And so you can I was, 19 at the time.
Okay.
Even when you're that young and you don't really have much concept of responsibility, the idea of sitting in a desk at a cubicle working for someone else sounded like hell to me. And so then I was like, well, what is the alternative? How can I live life in a way that, I enjoy every moment?
Okay.
It's not that every moment is easy, but that I am doing what I want to do. So that freedom component came in very clearly early on after that.
And do you think we need that kind of wake-up call to define our why? Because the car accident, I think, it embodies who you are right now.
Yeah.
But to someone that had not the opportunity to live that, can they figure the why?
I took a shortcut for sure. I got lucky with that. I mean, that's how I feel. I got lucky with that. I'm totally fine.
Okay.
I'm very, I had no injury. I mean, I broke my back, but I'm healthy now. And that's why, we connected over going to the gym and sports and taking care of your body like a temple, that idea. But yeah, I feel lucky that moment happened to me, because it gave me the perspective that often people never get until they're on their deathbed at the very end of their life. And they say, well, what was the point? And it took me a long time to really understand, what it was and what the value of experiencing life was. because you put so much pressure on things. I have to do this, especially in America. Fame is very important. Yeah. Money is very important. So I went through all of those phases, and then at the end, I just wanted to feel like I had control over what I was doing, and then also feel fulfillment. Yeah. Which, that's what another thing you learn is that fulfillment usually comes from something that's hard. Yeah, definitely. So that's when I was like, okay, well, I can travel around and do a business, and I have to stay up super late, but it feels good, and it makes going to the beach in the morning feel that much better. Yes, exactly. I think something that maybe we have lost in France, you know, with the context and the télétravail, home office things, and the fact that the state is prominent in France. And that's why, in fact, I created this podcast, you know, is that unthinkable, is that, okay, you have to do hard things in life to really make you feel a fulfillment. And it's only when you do hard things that you will experience that. So very interesting. So basically, to go back to France, how do you manage to run your company in France? And what shocked you when you arrived in France first? And what did you enjoy? Okay, so I realized I also never answered your first question about why I moved here, so I'll answer that one first. Yeah, let's go for it. Part of the reason was, so in the US, people have a conception of the US, which is, you know, all the stereotypes which do exist. But life in the US can be very difficult. Like, there are not the social backdrops like you have here, which is not necessarily a good thing. But there's also the flip side where it forces you to adapt. And so in the US, you don't have, you know, the Social Security, or you don't have the free or the cheap education, and you have to really try to make it on your own. Yeah. So coming to, or in the US, that means like if you're just sort of like a normal person, even like, you know, a small company, life can still be comfortable, but you're sacrificing a lot of the things that you just naturally have in France, like history, culture, great food, the ability to walk. Why do you sacrifice that? Why do you feel that? I think it's because of the way that the structure of the US is set up. Okay. So the way that the cities are set up is completely different than like Paris, for example. You have to have a car. Okay. And you have to drive, I mean, unless you're extremely wealthy, you have to drive, you know, 30 minutes or an hour each way to go to work. Okay. And then when you get to work, you're in just a normal office building, which can be a little bit uninspiring. Like the WeWorks in the US, you're going to see. I mean, the ones in New York are nice. Okay. But the ones in LA, you're like, shit. Yeah, what is this? How am I supposed to work here? Okay. It's not like Lafayette. Yeah. You know, when you go in Lafayette, you're like, wow, holy shit. Amazing. So the lifestyle component. Yeah. I feel very lucky because I was able to figure out that financial component of starting my own company. Yeah. Which is easy to do in the US. I mean, relatively speaking, it's the easiest place in the world to make money. And I was then able to take that and say, okay, well, I'm getting greedy now. How can I have both? How can I have the financial and experience something that I believe is like some of the best culture in the world, the best lifestyle in the world? Okay. So and you picked up France. Picked France, man. I mean, Paris to me is the most beautiful city in the world. Oh, so thank you, God, you say that. No, I feel. I mean, I moved here because I wanted to be here. That's why I'm here. And so I live, 15 minutes from where I work. Yeah. And I walk down Rue de Martyr, like one of the most beautiful streets in Paris, every single day. Yeah. So I feel so lucky, man. I'm just drinking good wine, eating good food, doing European summers, traveling around. So I'm very happy you just tell us all of this because the thing that when you live in Paris, I think 90% of people hate Paris. Like, I want to go somewhere else. I can't be at Paris anymore. And they're right, but there are a lot of negative aspects in Paris. But it's very interesting to say that, okay, guys, just go in the US or go abroad, and finally you will see that Paris is not so bad.
Also, is that what do you think about the French mentality and the way people connect in France?
So I've noticed that in France, connections are much more, I don't want to say genuine, but they're more about just the person. Yeah. In the US, there is a lot of connections that have to do with business, and that's driving a lot of connection, especially in the business world. Yep. I mean, I have 2 companies with my best friend, which I think is uncommon in France to start a company with one of your friends. But for me and my friend, we lived in different places. I was living in LA and he was living in Texas. And so we were like, we consciously decided, this was the real estate company, we consciously decided, how can we stay in contact almost every day? And in the US, it's just business is always happening. So, you know, we can still joke around and do trips and hang out and text, but we talk every day now because you have to with business, and then it gives you an excuse to
just keep
to
talking.
Connect. Yeah.
Okay. And in France?
In France, it's just more if you like the person, you connect with them and talk with them. But well, I got very lucky when I first moved here. It was during COVID.
Okay.
And so I first joined WeWork, and it was immediately, there were already friends, and people were like, "What are you doing here?" Because it was so crazy for a person from LA to be moving to France when there was, you know, there was like 15 people at WeWork at that time.
Yeah.
So I met JJ, and I think I met you pretty early on,
And that's very funny because so I've not been yet to the US, but the main thing that people are talking about is that it's very hard to make great connection in the US. It's always on the surface great for business, but if you really want to go deep into someone, a network, or really want to know him very well, it's very hard. Yeah. Is that true?
It's hard for me to, like, I'm interested to hear what you have to say whenever you come back from your trip. But people from the US in general are very nice.
Okay.
And it's more egalitarian in the US.
Okay.
So William, we were talking about, just went to the US. And he met some founder who sold his company. It was like I think it was like a $50 million company or something.
Okay.
And just went to go get coffee, and it was fine. Like, no problem. Yeah, let's go get coffee.
Yeah, it's easy to start connections, but I think it's harder to start connection in France.
Yes.
Start conversation, because it's like you are always disturbing someone. I don't want to talk to you, etc. Very narrow. Minded. In the US, it's more easier, but deep connections, you know.
Deep connection is I think a bit harder in the US for sure. But the funny thing is, I mean, coming here, people had this conception, French people are rude, French people are,
what
they're
do you
standoff.
think about that?
I think maybe it's just a personality thing, because I would just go up and talk to people. You're like, oh, hey, what's up? How are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And
so you don't really feel the rude aspect of France. And what's the best thing you enjoy in France? What's the main thing you love?
I try to explain this to people whenever they come to visit me, like my friends or family, is that, and this is something I want you to try to look for in the US whenever you're there. Paris really prioritizes beauty, traditional beauty. Like in the architecture and the food. I mean, you could have, here it's like you have a chocolatier?
Yes.
Like where specifically one store and a guy has devoted his whole life to making chocolate.
Yeah,
and it's incredible. It's perfect. And he's devoted so much care into that and love and attention. And you walk by and you just can't help but to appreciate the respect.
The art of
exactly.
Chocolate.
And in the US, it's the opposite. It's how can we make more money off this? How can we expand into 50 countries cheaper? Boom, boom, boom.
It's so funny.
That to me is the biggest difference. I mean, architecture, even in the way that people dress. I mean, it's just like people in France care about, what they're wearing. And in the US, you'll see like people wear, like Lululemon jogging to like a 5-star restaurant. And it's just much more casual, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. But of course, did you have time to get out of Paris and to go in other city in France, or for the moment you have already stayed in Paris?
I've been to, so I still have travel as a big part of my life.
Yeah.
I just went to my 50th country, which I was very excited about.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I've traveled in Paris or in France. I've been to Normandy, all throughout the region. I've been to the east, so like Strasbourg, and then I've been to down toward the south, like Annecy, and then I've done pretty much all of the south except for Marseille.
Okay.
So
because I think Paris is very special from the rest of France. Not sure if you experience similar things in Strasbourg or Normandy.
Yeah, I can see why somebody who grew up in a place like Strasbourg would feel like it's claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Because it is small and it feels like a time capsule.
Okay.
But for me, it's, you know, it's nice. It's a treat.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this feels like a movie set. You know, but I can't imagine living there. It would feel, and maybe that's, I think in general, what people in France maybe feel is that they see the US and they see infinite opportunity.
Yeah.
And which is true.
Yeah, it's just bigger, it's going faster, there is less rules, more opportunities.
Yeah.
Whereas in France, you know, everything is more conventional, moving lower and things like that. So it depends, but I'm very happy that you enjoy Paris. And on the other hand, what's the worst thing or the thing that you really hate in France so far?
Okay, this is an example. I mean, this isn't a surprise. Anybody who's in France knows like the bureaucracy is shit. But so I have a visa and I have to renew it every year. Okay. So I did the renewal and I finally got my card and I had to go pick up my card and I get my card and it's expired because it took too long for them to process it. So I was just like,
I'm depressed.
Okay, and then I had talked to the person at the window, like, how do I get a new card? And they're like, oh, you have to redo this whole big thing. And so that gets very annoying.
And with all the country that you have visited so far, is it the worst in France with the bureaucracy? Or this is what I am not able to visualize or to understand is that, okay, in the US there is less bureaucracy, but is it France that is completely stuck with that, or from the US point of view, have you experienced it in other countries maybe?
I think that the tricky thing about growing up in the US is that money can fix a lot of problems.
Oh, yes.
So if in the US, I mean, you can even pay the government to get your passport quicker.
Okay.
You can get your passport and, you know, renewed in a week or 2 weeks if you pay more.
Yeah, in France you go into jail if you try to do that.
Yeah. So I think here I think it's more common in every other country, most countries, that money is not connected to services as often. But in the US, you can pay for pretty much anything to get, like there's celebrities who have, like the shitty example is there's celebrities when they have to get their driver's license renewed, they close the entire station and they only go in by themselves to take the photo and do this because it would be too crazy for them to go in with the normal people. Okay. So money can get you a lot in the US.
Yeah, it's not at all the way it works in France, but I'm not sure that we are on the right way on that. With the bureaucracy, it's terrible, honestly. Especially when you set up a company, it's so hard. You have so much stupid stuff to do, and it takes time. It takes time. Yeah, I had to do my driving license again to go in the US. It took like 1 month. You have to get special picture, you know, online. It's terrible. Really, we have a lot of things to learn. I think from the US and you guys on that. And what about the French lifestyle, you know? The food, the culture. I think, just to finish on that, I met in WeWork in France another mate that was working from the US too. And he was shocked that after 5 p.m., everyone was leaving WeWork, you know? Yeah. And that starting from 6 p.m., it was just... empty.
Yeah, I think that's...
What about that?
I mean, that sucks for business, for sure.
Yeah.
But from a lifestyle perspective, that's kind of why I'm here, is to...
Okay.
And that's why I said I was greedy earlier. It's like I want the US business opportunity.
Yeah.
And then I also want like the French social... I mean, one thing I've learned very clearly here is that it's always okay to take a moment to have a coffee or to sit down or relax. And I can see how in the culture that would create frustrations with business. But just from an outsider's perspective, it really is, you guys have it very good here from a social perspective of just enjoying life. I think that you can be not that wealthy in France and live a very, very high quality life. Because you can go to, you know, the park at like Luxembourg Gardens, for example, and sit in a place that in the past, you know, even 150 years ago was reserved for royalty. Yeah. And now you can chill there with an amazing bottle of wine that costs 10 euros, an amazing cheese that costs €5, and you're living literally like how kings used to live, and even better. And you don't have to have much money.
Because in the US, what would it look like, in fact, if you try to parallel?
There's not even anything comparable. I mean, you have to access spaces like that in the US, you have to have money. So to go to a nice restaurant, you have to have a car to get there, and you have to have nice clothes and the reservation and all this. I mean, you can go to the beach, but the quality of, you know, what you can buy and consume is much better here. Okay. So in the US, you know, you go to the beach and you would probably eat, you know, big like a company like packaged shit and like not that good food that's not good for you. And
well, yeah, I think it's very interesting because sometimes we don't realize how lucky we are with this environment. So I will see in the US, if I feel that, I will really try to take attention to it, you know, to pay attention and to see, okay, do I really feel that everything needs to be solved with money in the US, or can we have this kind of peace moment like you describe us? Yeah, nice. If we go more on a lifestyle and the way that, you know, you grow a company, but also as a human being, I know that you are very fond of sports, taking care of yourself. Yeah. Can you share a little bit more with us about that? How you organize your day, how you make yourself more productive, things like that?
Yeah, I'm going to sound, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to sound, but this is just me. I feel very lucky for how I'm able to structure my days, which is also part of why I enjoy living here. And I'll explain why. Is because every day for me feels like a weekend. Because I can dictate when I get up, because my workday starts, you know, at 14, So I can get up at 10, I can get up at 9:30, and then take my morning to just drink coffee, enjoy the sun when there is sun. Nice. And then go, to the gym. Or go have, you know, lunch somewhere outside and slowly process what I'm going to do later on the day. So I feel very lucky for that, because it's
you have free time.
Yeah.
In the morning.
During the day, which I think is this is like another sort of hack I've kind of figured out, and why I enjoy living here, is that most of the time you're stuck inside during the day working. Yeah. And it's quite depressing after a while. Even if you live in a place where, you know, it's raining or dark, just being inside all day can get depressing, and not having the option to go outside. And so I kind of figured out, like, if I'm able to live in Europe, somewhere where I'm able to, you know, enjoy the day a bit, where nobody's messaging me, there's no emails, everybody's asleep, and I can go have a lunch and just enjoy being outside. That to me is worth, you know, millions and millions of dollars or euros.
It's really nice. I think you really embodies the fact that you have found your why, you know. It's very interesting, because I feel the way you say that, I feel you are very happy with the fact that you have full control of your time. It's very inspiring. And how you stay focused, productive, because as I see you working in WeWork, I know that you work very, very late. Yeah. Is it not too difficult just to work very late and to be like not on the normal hours? How do you manage that?
That's the hard thing. And that's the part where, you know, we talked about earlier, sacrifice allows you to experience something great.
Yeah.
And so that for me is the sacrifice is, you know, sometimes I would legitimately work until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can't complain, you can't bitch about it because this is what you chose, but there's deadlines or there's something that happened to work that you have to figure out. And so that's the sacrifice I've chosen. There's always sacrifices in life, but I believe that if you can choose your sacrifices, then it makes them easier to manage. Yeah. And my sacrifice that I chose is that I have to work in the evening.
Yeah.
But even then, you know, you're always working as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
On vacation, you're working. You know, when you're
really hard
on
to
the weekend,
disconnect.
you're not working.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel, and I've been doing it long enough to where it doesn't feel abnormal at all. It doesn't feel like work. Work is integrated with my life so much that
because you have find what you really want to do in life. So it doesn't feel like pain or work, and it's just a circle around the fact that you have found your why.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because in France, one of my favorite catchphrases is that on se crée les problèmes qu'on mérite. So in English, it will be like you deserve a problem that you create by yourself, in fact. And I think it's the lesson of the entrepreneurial way. You know, you have full control of what you are going to do, of which problem you want to have in your life. I think it's the beauty part of it. But also, then when you choose what to do, you need to just assume and to do and to work like 4 a.m., which is I think crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, totally crazy. It's insane. The lifestyle I live is insane.
Yeah,
it's not for somebody who doesn't like crazy difficult circumstances. But then the payoff is amazing.
Yeah,
and like when I talk to people and tell them my life, I always feel humbled because they are like, "Holy shit, that sounds amazing. That sounds like a dream. I wish I could do that."
Yeah,
and then I think about all of the hard things that you have to sacrifice, but then it just makes me remember I'm living a life that not that many people either get to live or choose to live. And so it makes the sacrifice. Yeah, it makes the sacrifice be a non-issue for me. It's just part of the package.
I love that.
But yeah, the main thing I'm trying to work on now, we talked about this a little bit, and you said that you wanted to challenge me on it, so I wanted to bring it up. But I think most entrepreneurs, and this is something we talked about, have a serial entrepreneur phase where you're starting multiple companies. And so I have a long-term goal with what I'm doing now with my marketing and strategy agency is to build a venture studio.
Okay.
Which basically, you know, is an incubator within your own company. You create startups based on ideas and problems that happen within your own niches.
Okay.
But then you can leverage your team members and your talent and clients and your experience with clients to then create a startup that maybe could make, you know, say $100,000 a year profit, and that's it. It's a small little company that's sort of moving and going. So that's sort of the long-term thing that I want to do, because I found out very early on that I love constant new challenges, and the management phase for me is the hardest part. That is, man.
It's not for you.
No.
But in this room.
Yeah, I think it's just different than the entrepreneur mindset. There's a book that I read that I can't remember what book it was, but it described. This is the funny thing, is like I don't remember the book, but I remember the idea that was in the book. So the idea in the book was that there were, like, imagine you have 3 different types of dogs to run a race.
Yeah.
And so there's like one dog that you want at the beginning, and then there's another dog that you want in the middle, and then there's one dog at the end that you want to like continue for the rest of the thing. And I think companies are like that. When you see somebody like Zuckerberg or I mean even like Elon, who is able to take a company from startup and then to middle management and then to massive company, it's 3 completely different skill sets. So I only have, I think, the first one, which is like starting something and getting it going.
I think it's for my team, what I try to explain them is that for a company to be correctly managed, that you need entrepreneurial skill. It's a visionary skill. That you will drive the boat and you will define the vision. And I think it's what you are very great about. Then you need, of course, sales. You need to sell your product. And the last one is operator. The operator is all the management stuff. And the more you grow, the less you will need, in fact, visionary or sales stuff, but more operating stuff. And it will what will make you just build a huge company.
Yeah.
And definitely, like you, it's something that I'm really bad.
I mean, that's when you see somebody like Zuckerberg.
And
you're just how he is an anomaly, where. And it's very rare to see somebody who starts and then can manage and then can operate as well.
Switch from operator to visionary to operator to sales and to master the three of them. But basically, that you will also need to be surrounding with great partners, founders, or top management team.
Yep.
You're solo on your business now. You said that you were with your brothers.
So
your best friend. Sorry.
Yeah. So I have 3 companies at the moment that are not just side projects. They're.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay. So I have 3 projects that I delineate my time. So my marketing and strategy agency is about 60% of my time.
Okay.
And then I have a real estate development firm, which is that sort of spawned. I co-own that one with my best friend. That one spawned sort of as a way to transition money into assets.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another lesson you learn in entrepreneurship is cash is the most important thing if you're doing a bootstrap. Cash. But then you have to learn that if your cash is losing value because of inflation every year, how do you then invest and learn, which is a whole different thing. So real estate in the US is much more easy to get into than in France. But I recently found out you guys can get 1% loans or like super cheap loans, right? To buy an apartment?
Here in France, you say?
Yeah,
it was the case. I invested, I think, 2 years ago with my brother on some apartment, and the loan was 0.8%. But now it stopped. It's like 3 or 4%.
I want to pick this up and throw it at you again. Like right now, I mean, in the US, like 9% interest rates are basically where we're at. But so it's easier to get into, but then you can get really fucked over easy very quickly.
Subprime crisis.
Man, I mean, and luckily, so we kind of approached it as like he now has started his own consulting firm, but he was working for a big company before, and so we basically had additional income to supplement this thing that was happening. But we recently ventured into building apartments, which is a whole other animal. So we're learning that, but I see that as something that can be lifelong. You know, you can build assets that maintain, you know, for your entire life.
So interesting. I think there are so much similarities between you and I. Is that I think the reinvestment part of your business is very important, and it's even, I think, maybe the most important thing, because if everything crash, you want to have secure at least some assets and some capital. Something that in France we are completely fucked up. I think the investment part in France is really bad. In the US, I think your mentality is more about that. Is that I can use my cash to reinvest, to secure things, and to grow my empire, in fact.
Yeah.
So basically, as I understand, is that you have your main activity, which is your agency, and then all the cash you generate, you put it into real estate just to secure things, right?
Yep, essentially, yeah.
Okay, and then to have some passive income, I guess, with the rent and the thing like that.
Yep, and then, I mean, that's where you really start to see compounding things working together.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, you can sort of propel yourself if you are using and taking risks. I mean, I remember our first... we built a duplex, which is basically 2 houses next to each other. In the US, everything is more 1 story, maybe 2 story in some of the like smaller, you know, cities.
Okay.
So it's just like a house basically. I remember I put $25,000 and my friend put in $25,000.
Okay.
And it was almost, I mean, it was basically all the money I had. I was just like, all right, let's do it.
It was all in.
If it crashes, I'm still young and I can make more money and figure it out. But I remember being on the phone with him and being like, is this stupid? Did we just like fuck everything up by doing this? And he was kind of like, I don't know. And we were both like, let's see. And we've made many mistakes along the way, but that's the point, is just you have to jump in. You can't sit on the sidelines because time is working against you. If you invest when you're 25 and you make mistakes, by the time you're 30, you're going to be so much better off than the guy who starts at 30, who then has to wait until he's 40. And then, so that was a big proponent of why we wanted to start early. And we also had some nice connections that we made. People like when you're young in the US, if you're young and you're
self-driven
and you ask questions to an old real estate guy, he's happy to talk with you and he wants to share and he'll help you out. So we got very lucky there as well. And then 10% of my time now just started a pet supplement company.
Okay.
Yeah, so same with my best friend, and then we have one of my best friends as well. So there's 3 of us. And one of them, we all sort of have 3 different specialties. Sales, I bring the marketing and strategy, and then the other guy brings in the biopharmaceutical background. But the idea with starting this is what you learn in the service industry, it's very hard to scale without people.
Yeah.
You have to have people to scale. And so the idea of building a product where we can, maybe do, a couple $1 million in revenue every year, but it's just us 3 and maybe 2 people managing orders exactly, which is it's the easiest time ever in history to use Shopify to connect to a fulfillment app, to connect to all these different integrations that you really can automate and just oversee.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I don't know, I'm kind of hoping that's going to begin to take up more of my time, because I also like working with my friends. I mean,
it's very interesting because the way you have built your empire is that it's what we were talking about yesterday, is that there is time to learn, there is time to earn.
Exactly.
And I'll do it again. So there is time to earn. There is time to learn and there is time to earn. Is that the base stuff is that you do a lot of things, you create your agency and you are more like selling your time. And then you understand that your time is limited, but also you want to cash on assets. So you start with real estate and you just cash in what you have get from your agency consultancy. And now you're like, okay, I think I've mastered level 1. Let's go to level 2. And now how we can just create a big business with only the people I love working with and use all the leverage I acquired so far to build it. And to close this up is that I think right now what we're seeing with AI and things like that, we are going to see the first, solo billionaire.
Exactly.
Which will be able to create business, the coding part, the software, the customer relationship part on his own with AI, and just create a multi-billion-dollar company on his own.
I think so too, man. That's why I want to, if I was starting freelance now, it would probably feel overwhelming because there's so many tools. There's more tools now than ever. But you legitimately can make a $1 billion company with less than 5 people now. I genuinely believe that, which was impossible. Even 2 years ago, it was impossible. Yeah. So now, really leveraging technology to be able to create companies. I mean, this is a personality thing. If you don't want to have a big company and manage a bunch of people, you can still make the money. Yeah. And leverage technology to really expand what you can do. So I'm trying to slowly work my way towards that, because if I was smart, I would have started from the beginning to say, wait a second, I don't want to sell my time for money. I don't want to create something that scales with people. And I probably would have started with a product at the beginning, but I'm much more just sort of figure it out as I go. But if you are starting out now, I think that there's so much opportunity to create.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I think it will really change in the coming years about that. The more I stay in the entrepreneurial game, the more I see that even big companies are like, okay, I need to freelance, in fact, my team. I need to outsource my stuff to be more agile, to be able to do the same with less resources, less human resources, and only hire top talents, But also to close on this interview is that it creates, a problem on the more global view, is that what other people are going to do. If tomorrow you're able to do the same thing with 2 people rather than 20 people, what do you do with the 18 people left,
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think that the optimistic view is that those people can then do jobs that aren't shitty, and they can figure out something that will help contribute.
It will create new jobs.
I think the pessimistic view is that it will create a situation where nobody has jobs and they have to be given government money every month. I don't know where it lands in the middle. I think that it probably will land somewhere in the middle, and we'll have to figure it out as we're going. But
in France, I think we are leaning toward that. Is that we work less. We only work 3 to 4 days a week. We are not being like crazy, but we have just like crazy time, and it's a work-life balance, you know. So it will be very interesting to see that. And also, it's the time if you want to create project and to go into the entrepreneurial game. I think there is no better time.
I completely agree.
Chris, we have 2 minutes left.
Nice.
Is there something that you want to tell to my French audience to wrap up?
I would say you guys have it amazing here. I love France. France is, from a cultural perspective, it's beautiful. And as much as you can hold on to that, that is a gift. It really is a gift. But I think also it's helpful to understand, like if you do want to start a business, like I'm excited for you to go to the US to see how different it is. And then, trying to understand, is there a way that could be integrated into French culture? Because I'm sure you've seen GDP statistics and across Europe, they're tanking relative to the US. And what will happen is that will continue to accelerate, where the US or maybe Dubai or another country that's coming up will boom, 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 start to accelerate at a much more rapid pace. And I think in the long term, that's very bad. In the short term, it won't be felt. Life will continue as it is. But I think that America is a product of France. We came from you guys, essentially. We stole your flag, we stole your your ideas, we stole your revolution, everything. So
it's the rise and fall of empires,
Yeah.
Ray Dalio, you know it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we are going bankrupt, in fact, in Europe, but we will recover. But I think we are doomed until it's revolution. We'll see in 50 years. Chris, thank you for this time. If there are some people in my audience that want to just catch up with you, to contact you,
sure.
Where should they go?
They can go to draftcreativegroup.com, or you can comment on the YouTube, and then Thomas can get you.
Sure, and maybe some LinkedIn if you're.
I'm on LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn? Christopher Eshnaur. I don't have Instagram though, which is that's like a controversial thing, but
I don't have neither.
Man,
I just want to be in peace with myself.
That's what it is. It is peace. It really is.
Don't go on Instagram.
Yeah. Doom scroll.
Exactly. Chris, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And yes, I think we'll do a V2 when I come back from the US and share my view on that with you.
Let's do it. Awesome.
Nice. Thank you, guys. If you love this episode, as always, comment, share, and subscribe. And see you soon for the next episode. Ciao.
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 Ciao.